It was a cold, moonlit night, the kind that sends shivers down your spine even before anything happens. I had been wandering around, lost in thought, when I realized I was trapped. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. My breath hitched as I tried the door for the third time. Each attempt felt more desperate than the last. It wouldn't budge. Panic surged through me, a wave of cold fear that made my hands tremble. The old rusted doorknob twisted uselessly in my grip. It was as if the house itself was mocking my efforts. I felt a chill run down my spine, a sensation that seemed to echo the coldness of the night outside. My neighbor's house was known for its eerie reputation. It stood there, a silent sentinel of countless ghost stories. People whispered about it, but I never believed. Until now. The stories seemed to come alive in my mind, each one more terrifying than the last. My heart pounded louder than the creaking floorboards beneath my feet. Each beat was a reminder of my growing fear. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The air was thick with tension, making it hard to think clearly. The shadows seemed to move, closing in on me. They danced on the walls, creating shapes that played tricks on my mind. I had to find another way out. My eyes darted around the room, searching for any possible escape route. Turning away from the door, I faced the dimly lit hallway. It stretched out before me, a path shrouded in uncertainty. The house groaned as if it were alive. Each creak and moan seemed to whisper secrets of the past. I needed to stay calm, but fear was already taking over. My mind raced with thoughts of what could be lurking in the shadows. With each step, the floorboards creaked beneath me, amplifying the silence. I moved cautiously, every sense on high alert. A flickering light bulb cast eerie shadows, making the hallway seem even more menacing. It was as if the house was alive, watching my every move. I spotted a window at the end of the hallway. Hope surged through me as I rushed towards it, but it too was locked tight. I looked back at the dark hallway, feeling the weight of the house's oppressive presence. There had to be another way out. Just then, I noticed a curtain slightly ajar, revealing a hidden door. My heart raced with a mix of fear and hope as I approached it. With trembling hands, I opened the hidden door and stepped through, not knowing what awaited me on the other side. It all began with a simple invitation. A plain envelope, sealed with wax, arrived at my doorstep one chilly autumn evening. The handwriting was elegant, almost archaic, and it bore the unmistakable mark of my neighbor, Mr. Thompson. My neighbor, Mr. Thompson, had always been a reclusive man. He rarely ventured out of his house, and when he did, it was usually under the cover of darkness. His presence was an enigma, a shadow that loomed large in our small community. One evening, he invited me to his home. The invitation was unexpected, and it piqued my curiosity. What could this mysterious man want from me? The letter was brief, simply asking me to join him for coffee and conversation. Curiosity got the better of me. Despite the rumors and the eerie tales that surrounded his residence, I found myself unable to resist the allure of the unknown. I decided to accept his invitation. I had heard the stories about his house. People said it was haunted. Whispers of ghostly apparitions and unexplained noises had circulated for years. The house itself seemed to breathe with an unsettling energy, but I was a skeptic. I didn't believe in ghosts. To me, the tales were just that. Stories, born out of fear and superstition. I prided myself on my rationality and my ability to see through the veil of the supernatural. So when Mr. Thompson invited me over for coffee, I accepted without hesitation. I saw it as an opportunity to debunk the myths and perhaps get to know the man behind the mystery. The house was old, with ivy creeping up its walls. It stood like a relic from another time, its grandeur faded, but still imposing. The full moon cast an eerie glow, making the shadows dance on the walls. Inside, it was dimly lit and filled with antique furniture. The air was thick with the scent of old books and polished wood. Every corner seemed to hold a secret, every shadow a story waiting to be told. Mr. Thompson showed me around enthusiastically. He seemed proud of his collection. Each piece had a history, a tale of its own, and he recounted them with a passion that was almost infectious. We chatted for a while, and then he excused himself to get something from the basement. I waited, sipping my coffee, the minutes stretching into an uncomfortable silence. Minutes turned into hours, and he didn't return. The ticking of the clock grew louder, each second a reminder of his absence. The house seemed to grow colder, the shadows darker. I decided to explore on my own. Armed with a flashlight, I ventured into the basement. The stairs creaked under my weight, and the air grew musty and damp. That's when things started to go wrong. The basement was a labyrinth of old furniture and forgotten relics. As I stepped onto the creaky stairs leading to the second floor. Each step echoed through the silent house. My skin prickled as if someone were watching me. Halfway up, I heard whispers, faint, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to come from everywhere. I paused, straining to hear. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. Reaching the top of the stairs, I found myself in a long hallway. Doors lined both sides, each one slightly ajar. The whispers continued, urging me to pick a door. I chose the one at the end. The room was filled with old photographs. Faces stared at me from every corner. I felt a shiver of fear. Something was definitely not right. The whispers. As I examined the photographs, shadows began to move. They flickered at the edge of my vision, vanishing when I turned to look. My pulse quickened. The air grew colder. I could see my breath in the dim light. I tried to focus on the photographs, but the shadows kept distracting me. They seemed to be alive. I backed away, stumbling into the hallway. The whispers followed me, louder and more insistent. The shadows now seemed to be everywhere, closing in on me. I had to get out of there. I ran down the hallway, my footsteps echoing eerily. The shadows chased me, their presence oppressive. I needed to find a way out before it was too late. I burst into another room, slamming the door behind me. For a moment there was silence. Then a ghostly figure appeared. It was translucent, with hollow eyes staring at me. My heart pounded in my chest. The figure floated closer, its mouth moving as if trying to speak. I couldn't move. Fear had paralyzed me. The figure reached out, its hand passing through me. I felt a bone-chilling cold. The whispers returned, louder and more urgent. The ghost seemed to be trying to tell me something. Suddenly the figure vanished. The room grew darker and the whispers became deafening. I needed to escape, but the door wouldn't open. The room began to shake. Objects flew off the shelves and the walls seemed to close in. The ghostly figure reappeared, its hollow eyes fixed on me. I screamed for help, but my voice was drowned out by the cacophony of supernatural activity. The figure floated closer, its presence overwhelming. I felt a force pulling me toward the ghost. I fought against it, but it was too strong. The room spun, and I was engulfed in darkness. My mind raced, searching for a way out. Just when I thought I couldn't hold on any longer, the door burst open. A blinding light filled the room, and I was pulled to safety. The ghostly figure vanished, and the room grew still. I stumbled into the hallway, gasping for breath. The shadows had retreated, but the whispers still lingered. I needed to find a way out before they returned. I ran down the stairs, my heart pounding. The front door was still locked. I frantically searched for another exit. The house seemed to twist and turn, confusing me at every step. Finally, I found a window. I smashed it open with a nearby chair and climbed out, cutting my hands on the broken glass. The cool night air was a welcome relief. I ran across the lawn, not daring to look back. The house loomed behind me, dark and foreboding. I didn't stop until I reached my own front door, safe at last. The next morning I woke up to the sound of birds chirping. It felt surreal after the horrors of the previous night. I checked my hands, now bandaged, and remembered the ordeal vividly. I decided to visit Mr. Thompson's house in the daylight. It seemed less threatening, but the memories were still fresh. I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. The house was empty, no sign of Mr. Thompson. I asked around the neighborhood, but no one had seen him. It was as if he had vanished along with the ghosts of his house. I couldn't shake the feeling that the house was still watching me, that somehow it had let me go but could call me back at any time. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. In the days that followed, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. The events replayed in my mind over and over, each detail more vivid than the last. The ghostly figure, the whispers, the shadows. It all seemed like a nightmare. But it wasn't just a bad dream. It was a reality that I had to come to terms with. But the cuts on my hands were real. They were a constant reminder of the encounter, a physical manifestation of the terror I had experienced. I realized that my skepticism had been shattered. My once firm belief in the rational and the explainable was now in question. There were things in this world that couldn't be explained by logic or science. The supernatural was not just a figment of imagination or a tale to scare children. It was real, and it was terrifying. The supernatural was real, and I had witnessed it firsthand. The experience was both humbling and horrifying, leaving me with a sense of vulnerability I had never felt before. I often wondered about Mr. Thompson, his demeanor, his cryptic warnings. Had he known the house was haunted? Or was he as much a victim as I was? Had he known the house was haunted? The thought gnawed at me, making me question everything I knew about him. Was he part of the haunting? His actions and words seemed to suggest a deeper involvement, but I could never be sure. The questions haunted me. but I knew I would never get answers. The experience changed me. It left me with a sense of unease that I couldn't shake off. I was more cautious, more aware of the unseen. Every creak, every shadow seemed to hold a hidden threat. I'd become hyper-aware of my surroundings, always on edge. And every time I passed by that old house, I could feel its eyes on me, a reminder of the night I was trapped within its walls. The house seemed to have a life of its own, watching, waiting. It was a constant reminder that the world was not as simple as I once believed. The encounter had left an indelible mark on my soul, a scar that would never fully heal.